Hi, everybody. It's meteorologist Joe Chaffee on this Friday night, the 19th of April, 2019. Welcome to the Joe Chaffee Weather Show on what is a very busy night, severe weather-wise. I did a Patreon live stream for my Patreon subscription members about 2 hours ago, and we're just going to update the thunderstorm activity. Over to the left, you can see, let me make sure I can see. Over to the left, you can see the running tornado watch boxes. I'm going to show you a close-up view of this, but this is over the Storm Prediction Center's map of risk. And this morning, it came up with a moderate risk across Virginia, North Carolina, and into parts of South Carolina. And that's just something that you really don't see too often. You'll see it in Tornado Alley from time to time. In the east, it happens a bit less frequently. So it kind of caught my eye this morning. We thought that they would upgrade this as we moved along. It's another example when you see it in that 4 to 8 day time frame on their website that they are putting in for probabilities out 5-6 days out in advance. That means that they have some pretty strong confidence that you're going to get at least that, and they had that as a slight risk back about 5 or 6 days ago. Great call considering how active things are tonight, and indeed they are very, very active. Here is the SPC. We're going to go to the Storm Prediction Center's surface map. These update if you go to SPC's website, which is spc.noaa.gov, and then go to their mesoscale tools. You could pull up these maps and just have a field day with all the different parameters, a lot of which I've never seen, by the way, and some that I haven't really used since way back in the day. So I got a little bit of refreshing to do as well. But this is what the radar looks like over the surface map, which at 8 o'clock is showing less than a 994 low, probably sitting right on the Tennessee Virginia border, right in that general area there, touching West Virginia. And you've got a very strong southerly flow of warm tropical air shooting up the eastern seaboard. The warm sector actually extends pretty far north into New England. And we've got heavy thunderstorms, strong thunderstorms underway and playing out in eastern Virginia, eastern North Carolina, and numerous severe thunderstorm warnings and tornado warnings that have been popping up all over the place in the last couple of hours. A couple of things I just want to show you with regards to the surface observations down here. Now we're coming toward the end of the day, so your temperatures are coming down. A lot of these areas have seen downpours and thunderstorms. So we've seen those temperatures drop off from being well up into the 70s and low 80s earlier today, and dew points that are in the 60s. It looks like we're getting a bit of a refresh here. Hang on 1 second. They took my isobars off. All right. And here are your working tornado watches that are left. You've got one that's left in western North Carolina. Now that's with the upper low that is swinging around. Oh, we got a new plot. That's why. And the lows. This map replots frequently, so you'll get the absolute up-to-date map here. But your tornado watches continue in western North and South Carolina. And and that's with the upper low, a little arm of thunderstorms swinging around the upper low with that. And then you have these 2 tornado watches that continue in eastern North Carolina, eastern Virginia, and for much of the state of Maryland. Those 2 watches, by the way, go until midnight tonight. They have another 4 hours to run. And on the northern fringe of that is a severe thunderstorm watch, a small severe thunderstorm watch geographic area that has been put up for parts of south central Pennsylvania. And that particular watch is up until 11 o'clock Eastern time. If you go down here on the side, you can just bring your mouse over the particular watch in play, and the convective that box there, the SPC products box, will oftentimes put up new discussions as they come out, so you can access them very easily. But this is the look of the current severe thunderstorm watch in south central PA till 11 o'clock. The tornado watch here in eastern Virginia, eastern North Carolina, and a small portion of northeastern South Carolina. That's also up until midnight. And the one around northern Virginia and into Maryland, including Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, that is also up until about midnight. I'm not anticipating any additional watches going up for the early morning hours into daybreak. I don't think there will be, from what I'm seeing. That's not to say that there won't be some heavy downpours and some strong thunderstorms in the mix. I think there will be, but I'm just wondering whether they will be severe. I'm going to jump sectors here. We're going to go to the northeast, if it will let me. There we go. So we'll pull up the northeast sector, and you can see it from this vantage point. We have put the watch boxes up because you can get it up. You can see it up there in Maryland and eastern Virginia. The warm sector, the isobars, those dark black lines, the lines of equal pressure, where they pinch off. It's like you have this finger that points from where the surface low is in southeastern Kentucky. There's a finger that points up northeast, and where those isobars kind of get pinched together in a what looks like a broad V. So that's where your warm front is, running up through western PA, southwestern New York, cuts across upstate New York and into northern Vermont and New Hampshire. Because when we look at the surface observations, even though the temperatures have come down a bit, we have seen, excuse me, it's very dusty in here where I'm working tonight. High temperatures, current temperatures are in the upper 60s and low 70s, all the way up into southern New Hampshire. We actually have 60s even into Maine. So this warm sector is fairly extensive. If you look in southeastern New England and in southern New England and Long Island now, we're getting a bit more of a marine influence getting involved with the south wind. It was not there today, but in the last few hours, we're seeing some drizzle coming in. The bottom part of the atmosphere temperatures are dropping down into the 50s. So that's another reason why I'm wondering whether there may be some limiting factors now going into the overnight regarding thunderstorm activity further to the north. And here's the radar, the latest radar, with much of the rain pretty far to the west. The surface low running up the Appalachians the way it is, it's actually really running up the west side of the Appalachians as opposed to the east side, and that is limiting the eastern extent of the rain. I would not expect very much in my zone area from eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England, but particularly from New Jersey to Long Island and the Hudson Valley, the lower Hudson Valley, and through Connecticut. We're probably not going to see that much rain until well after midnight when the area to the south starts to move northeastward and the surface low begins to pivot a bit so we can shift this area of rain a bit further to the east. Here's the radar view. This is from Wakefield, Virginia. I want to make sure I got the latest one. And if you look closely, I'll try to make it a bit bigger here, but if you look closely, those boxes that show up, those red boxes and the yellow boxes, the red boxes are tornado warnings. The yellows are severe thunderstorm warnings. Let me just make sure that there's no flash flood. There were no flash floods warnings. Those are in southwestern Virginia, but right now there are, I'm trying to, at least by county, it looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, about 7, maybe about 10 counties at the moment in Virginia that are under some sort of tornado warning. And let me just right now mention the fact that it is 8:09 Eastern Time. So if you're watching this on a replay, clearly it's going to be dated. So be sure that you go to your local National Weather Service forecast office page to check on the latest weather information regarding the severe weather, and you can find that by going to weather.gov. On the wide radar view, what stands out are the thunderstorms, clearly, and that those storms are running through Virginia, North Carolina. But you can also see the rotation of rain back through Tennessee, northern Mississippi, northern Alabama, western Kentucky. That is around the upper low that is driving all this. That's the mechanism, that is the gear that is driving this whole system here in the east, bringing the tropical air, or at least brought the tropical air up the eastern seaboard. And you'll notice that the showers that are in the east, that whole area seems to be moving more north-northeast than anything else. And that's why the areas west are getting more of the rain at the moment, and not that much going on in the east. Think about a winter snowstorm, by the way. When I mentioned during a couple of the winter snowstorms that we had, where it started snowing in northeastern New York, Vermont, and New Hampshire, before it started snowing in New Jersey, Long Island, and New York City. And for snow lovers, that's never a good thing to see. Well, in this particular instance, it's kind of the same thing in that the heavy rains are setting up throughout Northwest PA, upstate New York, because of the low tracking as far west as it is. So you kind of have to wait for whatever's coming for what's down the pike here from south central PA southward into Virginia, North Carolina. How much of that is going to hold together as it moves northeastward, but then the whole system begins to slowly pivot further to the east. We do also have, by the way, some strong thunderstorms at eastern North Carolina. You can see there's a bit of a snaking line here running through eastern North Carolina, and those are going to be impacting the Outer Banks, also down toward Wilmington and beyond, the tail end of that tornado watch that's up. And the strong storms and the squall line of thunderstorms held together quite nicely here, moving across the state of Florida. Now down in South Florida, south of Sarasota and Naples, and approaching, it looks like it's probably up around West Palm Beach and down toward Fort Lauderdale, and eventually you'll see that line move through Miami. But it's going to be a little while yet, because of the fact that the north-south orientation of this whole system, there's not a whole lot of easterly component to all of this, at least at the moment. By the way, across the rest of the nation, there really isn't too much going on. We have a little bit of activity underway in the Pacific Northwest with some energy that's coming in there, but much of the country right now is on the quiet side, and that is a good thing. Just want to give a quick check here. Let's run down toward coastal North Carolina just to see what's going on their radars. And we do have a few severe thunderstorm warnings that are up in this particular region in northeastern North Carolina. I don't see any tornado warnings. The two tornado warnings in Virginia are up a bit further on the northern edge of this shot. And I'll bring back the Wakefield radar, and you can see these tornado warnings that are up for the areas getting pretty close to Chesapeake Bay here as this area moves to the northeast. Looks like these showers and storms are just outside of the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area at the moment. One more radar jump up. Yeah, they're just getting ready to move into Washington, D.C. They're not quite close to Baltimore yet. They've got some time. But there are your tornado warnings that are up as of 8:13 Eastern Time. Again, if you're watching this on a replay, check out your local information for any fresh watches and warnings by going to weather.gov. So let's play it out. Here's your upper air view. Deep trough there from earlier today, running from Wisconsin down into Louisiana. The bottom part of that trough cuts off very vigorously and tries to lift up northward, but it really can't. There's a jet stream running across southern Canada that's kind of keeping it from lifting it northward. So guess what? It's got to go to the course of least resistance, is going to be to the east, and it's going to weaken. That upper low actually moves off the Virginia coast and east of the Delmarva Peninsula, and then runs up to the northeast as we head into Monday and Monday night into Tuesday. So this is going to be a bit problematic here as far as seeing genuine improving weather conditions as we go through the rest of the weekend. Here is the GFS, and we are watching this surface low. It's at its peak intensity about now, and you'll see how the low just kind of rotates and pops back westward and then jumps to the northeast. It's just basically kind of coiling its way northward. By later tomorrow afternoon, it's sitting in southwest New York. At this point, we'll get what we get with these overnight rains, and one of the things we've got to be really cautious of is the fact that there's a banding nature to the precip, and you're going to wind up with these streaks of precip where you'll get 2-inch plus amounts inside these narrow bands, and then on either side of them you're going to get probably half or even less than half of that amount. And the idea here is that in terms of what this low is going to do, after we get through tomorrow morning, weather conditions should improve from west to east. Sunday's problem is this lingering upper low, so I think there might be some clouds and maybe some pop-up showers. The upper low swinging down the way it is actually forms another little surface low there off the Delaware coast during Sunday night into Monday. While I think that primarily is just going to be, kind of a minor system really, but because I think the upper low is around and over us, it's probably going to produce some clouds, and I wouldn't rule out pop-up showers both on Easter Sunday and for Monday. Much of the time, it probably won't be doing anything of consequence, and for many of you, you may not see anything out of this other than just some patchy clouds. But it doesn't. I don't think we're going to see a picture-perfect Sunday by any stretch of the imagination. But at least much of the time, it should probably be dry. The bulk of what's going to happen is going to happen overnight and on Saturday until the whole thing finally shifts away to the east. And just a quick look at the long range tonight. And the weather does appear to get a little complicated around midweek. But the systems that we're dealing with this week are going to be on the weak side and more of a nuisance than anything else. So I'm not really expecting too much here. It's not like we're going to see another wrapped-up cyclone. This system tonight is basically the third of the bunch that we're dealing with. Now, as far as rainfall is concerned, again, that banded nature, the GFS is a bit smoother on this, but when we look on the close-up view, we might see it a bit better. It is a bit streaky. You've got some 2-inch plus amounts, and then you go to a half, less than an inch, and then it goes back up. I think the NAM probably shows it a bit better, but the GFS would argue for a general 1 to 2 inch rainfall. I don't see any real problem with that. If you look at the NAM, the NAM's got that streaky look more so than the GFS. You've got that streak running through western PA. And then notice in a stretch in eastern PA, there are some areas that get actually less than a half an inch. And then it picks up again when you go into western New Jersey, drops down a bit in eastern New Jersey, picks up again over Long Island and southern New England. And you get some big amounts in upstate New York. You're talking 2-3 plus inches in north central and northeastern New York and in through Vermont and western, western Massachusetts. So the flood watch that is up, we do have flood watches that are in effect here that the Weather Service has put up since yesterday. And actually, excuse me, this is the dust that's in this room. I'm going to have to ask somebody to clean it. But here is the current warnings map. Pretty busy for this time of year, certainly, all in the east. And we've got flood watches up from Delaware and Maryland all the way northeastward up through New England, New York State, New Jersey, eastern Pennsylvania, and also for southern New England. I don't believe there's anything up for southeastern New England. I guess they're probably figuring that they're going to be outside one of those heavier bands of precip and not get enough to cause any serious issues. So I didn't put up a satellite view, so why don't we just do that now? And then I'm going to come to the board and just chat with you guys shortly. But here's how it looks tonight. Pretty impressive there. A very impressive spring storm with the upper low sitting in the southern Appalachians. You got that big arm that extends out from there, runs up and down the East Coast, your basic plume of severe weather from the mid-Atlantic states all the way down to Florida. Very, very impressive indeed. And on the other side of that is the nice weather right now that's in Texas and through the plains and parts of the upper Midwest until you go toward the West Coast and you start to get into some more clouds and that rain in the northwest. At least we have a big storm like this. There are parts of there's going to be some place that stands to benefit quite nicely out of it. And right now, it's Texas, the Plains, and I believe, pretty much the Rockies as well. So it looks pretty good up there. Okay, just coming to the chat board real quick. Let me just say right now, before I forget, tonight Passover has begun. So if you're watching this and you're supposed to be celebrating Passover, you're not supposed to be watching this. But have a happy and healthy Passover. And, of course, the holiday continues for the next 8 days. And also a very happy Easter, which is Sunday and tomorrow, Saturday night with Easter Vigil services. Whatever you have planned, be it with family or friends, do enjoy yourselves and do also do it quite safely. So, just real fast, one other thing I do want to mention, and I want to, we'll address this at some point next week when the weather's a bit calmer, but there was some news today with regards to Hurricane Michael. Hurricane Michael was in post-analysis upgraded to a Category 5 hurricane. Johnny Quest is pointing that out on the board tonight, and Anthony Orr as well, pointing it out on the chat board. I kind of thought that this would be the case last year after landfall, looking from the damage and seeing the observations from the reconnaissance aircraft and a few other things, that maybe this would be a situation that they would upgrade it to a Category 5, and indeed they did, making this the first Category 5 hurricane to come ashore. You have to go back to Hurricane Andrew in 1992 for the last time a storm made landfall in the United States as a Category 5 hurricane. So I'll be reading up on this over the weekend and early next week, and then we'll talk about it on one of the shows. Okay, folks, I'm going to wrap it up at this point. I think the dust is starting to get to me. I'm getting very nasally, and I'm sneezing and all the rest of it, so it might be a good idea for me to get out of this room for a little while. All right, have a great weekend. Enjoy your holidays, and we will see you. I don't know about doing live streams this weekend. I'll see what's up with me, with what's going on. But if I don't see you over the weekend, we'll see you next week. And we might do a Joe and Joe weather show coming up in about an hour on Facebook, but I can't guarantee it yet. I got to see how Joe feels about it. Sometimes when we get to Friday nights, we're both pretty tired. So we may do it, we may not do it. If we do, you can go to my Facebook page, Meteorologist Joe Chaffee. If you are not on Facebook, you can get it on my weather app. I will upload it to my weather app a little bit later on, and I will also upload it to the YouTube channel as soon as I can, assuming that we do it. Have a great evening and a great weekend, folks. We'll see you at some point, either tomorrow or tonight or next.